Welcome. I'm Dr. Bryan,
And I'm Mary Claire.
and today we're going to talk about the various ways PIs can make money with AI mobile lie detection from I Can Know.
We are indeed. This has been a fun topic. The more and more we work with private investigators, legal investigators, investigators of all sorts, helping them brainstorm how this can be a revenue generator and a real true service to their businesses it's been fun conversations over the
Yeah,
last number of months. So excited to
absolutely.
dive deep into that today.
Fantastic. Let's do it.
Okay, so Bryan, we do this often because we never know when somebody meets us. So before we help our PI friends out there understand how they could leverage this in their business, why don't we help them understand what it is we actually offer? So
Yeah,
if you wouldn't
yeah,
mind
yeah.
taking a step back and talking about our AI mobile lie detection technology.
Yeah, for sure. So many people know that polygraph has been the dominant source or form of lie
Mhm.
detection technology now for probably almost 100 years. And it works to some degree. I mean, 65 to 85% or 65 to 80% accurate. Depends on really the human polygrapher.
Yep.
And we all know that you get strapped up and it checks your vitals, your respiratory, your heart rate. The problem is that these things can be controlled, and people who are good at lying can often beat a polygraph test. So new technology been out, 15 or so years, developed at the University of Utah, called ocular motor deception technology, which uses the computer rather than a person to identify when people are not telling the truth. And the way it works is we use more of our cognitive load in our brains when we lie than when we tell the truth, and that has autonomic response impacts on our body. So our pupils dilate, our blink rate changes, our response rates change. And so we can take pictures of the face while people are answering questions. And this then can be scored. We can use AI and computer algorithms. We can take the human out of the picture so that it becomes very consistent. And we can get, in this case, 85 to 89% accurate. A lot of this depends on the conditions they're taken in, but still much higher than polygraph. Again, no lie detection test is perfect. We say that all the time, but in this case, we get much higher levels of accuracy. And then all of those data are uploaded into the cloud. They're all scored, and then it comes down and into your account so that you can see what the results are.
So perfectly summarized, Bryan. The main, I'll add to that and just a quick bolt. The
Yep.
main, we like to think obvious, but potentially not obvious. Obvious value proposition, particularly for PIs who have interactions with polygraph experts and technicians now. This is faster, so it takes 15 minutes to take a test, 15 minutes to get a report. You can take the test from anywhere. So you can send a test link to your client. They can take it at their home. You can invite that client into your office and have them take it there.
Yep.
And you already stated this, but there's no bias in the scoring because it's scored in the cloud using AI. And finally, it's a revenue generating opportunity for our PIs out there, which kind of blew my mind when we dove into this world that there was no form of or common form of reciprocal financial agreement between polygraph examiners and PIs. So
Yeah, it was almost a cost of doing business, right? It was the kind
yeah,
of thing where you're like, well, I need a polygraph. I'm going to go outsource that and take that to a polygrapher, and we're going
yeah,
to pay them for it. And it was not part of the business model for
no.
PIs in any way.
Well, yeah, and if it is, it's not common. If it was, I haven't met anybody where it has been yet. But
Right, right.
okay, so on that very topic, we're going to segue into talk about a number of different ways that PIs can leverage and create revenue, drive revenue, create new product or service, if you will, in their business using our AI mobile lie detection. And this comes from the PIs that we're already working with, as well as the PIs that were and doing some of these or many of these packages, so to speak, that we're going to talk about, but also that are trying to that they've thought of this
Yeah,
idea and they're taking it to market.
right, right.
So we've got again a number. Let's do our good old riffing, Bryan, and go back and forth and just kind of talk about each of these. So
Yeah, go
go
ahead.
for it.
No, I was just going to say the first one, is really obvious in terms of the way that you're going to really change the business model for PIs. This is what PIs were always doing anyway, was trying to
Yep.
find the truth. And so in this case, this tool allows us to just build that right into their business. Why don't you tell us a little bit about how they're using it, what they're doing with it?
Yeah. So, we've got a PI out west that did over the course of a year over 900 polygraph, or his clients did over 900 polygraph tests, which blew my mind. I was unclear of this tight relationship between PIs, not all PIs, but many PIs and polygraph examiners. So in his mind, again, that's 900 times whatever it costs out west. It could be up to $1,000, anywhere from $800 to $1,200. That was going out the door instead of staying in his business. So the real main obvious, or the most obvious use case is when somebody comes to you for a polygraph, as a PI comes to you for asking for a polygraph examination, instead of shooing it out the door, you keep it. And you work with us we build a test for you. The test link you send to your client, you and I, or you and someone on our team can review the report prior to you sending the report to your client. It's streamlined, it's fast. We're doing the heavy lifting in terms of writing the tests, and obviously the PIs are leveraging our technology and the reporting. The main thing a PI is doing is explaining the opportunity to the client and closing the sale, so to speak.
Right.
Much like they do with whether it's a social media audit or surveillance, whatever it may be. It's the same rhythm and the same behavior. It's just you have a new product to offer now.
And the real cool part about this too, Mary Claire, is that you are actually, the value proposition is not just improved for you as a PI, it's also improved for your customer, right? I mean, so on the one hand, if you're like, hey, you need to drop $800 to $1,200 to go get a polygraph in order to kind of get a baseline level of truth, you can now do that much less expensively, and they can also still make money where they weren't making money before.
Yep.
Everybody wins, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a no-brainer.
it's a no-brainer in that sense.
So, okay. So that's just overall, that's almost thematic in terms of the opportunity. Like I said, we've got another PI out east who gets calls all the time for polygraph, but there's no polygraph examiner around. So instead of nobody making money, now he gets to make money and, most importantly, help his client. So
Right.
game on. Okay. The next opportunity to think about, okay, how do I build this into my business? Building it into existing packages. So combining it, for example, with social media audit and lie detection, surveillance and lie detection, potentially background check and lie detection, all these depend on the situation, on how you can combine different services to create a package. But ultimately, can we bring this into an existing package to help our clients and their clients, most importantly, use it as a decision-making tool? Like whether PIs do all amazing things to try to get at the truth. Those are all data points, right? At the end of the day, their client has to make a choice on whatever the situation is. This is one more data point that you give them to create a more holistic understanding of the situation. So
I love that too, because if you have a client that comes to you and says, hey, I need to find the information out about X, right?
Yep.
And so as a PI, you're like, well, we could surveil, we can look at records, there's lots of things we can do. And we can also now do this, which would also help us. It rounds out that package of offerings, right? And makes it more holistic. Another data point, as you said, which is very powerful in terms of getting at the truth.
So, and on that note, I wanted to point this out at these first two. Again, one thing I wouldn't have known had I not started working with PIs, surveillance is not cheap.
Right.
And that is a common use of, or now using drones is another form of surveillance, if you will, or investigation. None of that is cheap. And so oftentimes somebody will come to a PI and they can't afford the services, at least the ones that they want. And some of the others that are offered don't fit the situation. So it also an opportunity for a PI to make their pie of the market bigger, because they're now able to keep a client that they would typically lose, or have the opportunity to keep a client they would typically lose, because they have a service that fits their need and is at the right price point. So whether it's a package or selling lie detection tests individually, the pie can get bigger in terms of who you're able to service. So I just wanted to note that as well.
Yeah,
So,
no, completely. It makes a ton of sense.
okay. Next one here, and a number of PIs, particularly legal investigators, are working with law firms, are partnering with law firms, either on the defense or criminal side. And in some situations are using polygraph. In other situations, I think a very common use for our tool in the legal world is actually to help defense attorneys understand where should they be spending their time on either let's get to baseline truth in terms of the individual that we're working with and trying to help. Again, lie detection is one form of is one data point, but spending the time and the money to go get a polygraph isn't always feasible. Doing a 15-minute test and getting the report 15 minutes later is feasible.
All right, let's do number 3.
All right, so another opportunity for PIs to, again, build a revenue stream using our AI mobile lie detection, partnering with law firms. So certified legal investigators do this currently. Other PIs who are not CLIs do this as well. It can be used on the criminal side and the defense side. I think the most frequent use case at this point with PIs is on the defense side and helping a lawyer, a defense attorney specifically, kind of understand with whom should they be spending time, either building a case because there's a baseline of truth there to defend, or recommending a plea bargain or taking another path. So this is a quick way to get a baseline of truth when understanding how to best help a client. Yeah. And where polygraph is just it's too expensive and often not feasible from a time frame perspective.
Yeah, and I think that last point is really important from a time frame perspective, because I think what happens in a lot of these cases is they need a quick view of like, where's the baseline truth here? What's really going on? Even if it's attorney-client privilege, they'll often try to figure this out. And polygraph, just like you said, it's too time consuming, it's too expensive. This becomes something that you can do quickly, easily, inexpensively.
I think, and then on the criminal side, and this is how it has been used in law enforcement, but I was just talking with a PI last week who had this exact same perspective. So on the criminal side, can we use, again, a more accessible, less expensive tool to use lie detection across a variety of suspects? Mm-hmm. And then if at that point, depending if somebody fails, then you could go ahead and, if you wanted to double down, do polygraph, because when you combine any form of lie detection, the level of accuracy increases. So that's another kind of mindset or idea on how to leverage this with a law firm.
Yeah, and I love what you said there too, that there's a quick and easy way to use our technology first to get kind of a view. And then to your point, if you want to then double down or add on, then you get other data points that can strengthen the perspective. That's very powerful. Yep. Totally agree.
Yep. All right, Bryan, why don't you help us with the next one?
Yeah. So, one of the things we've been thinking a lot about is whether or not there are ways to help people with accountability. And a lot of times, you get into this environment where people want to say, well, I'd like to know if this is ongoing. So if I'm continuing, whether this is whether these are rehabilitation centers or counseling centers or other things like that. This moves beyond just private investigation, but private investigators might find this as well, where people have an ongoing need to see or get a visibility into behaviors. And so if you're like, well, I want to make sure that it doesn't happen again. I already know what one behavior has been. I want to make sure that it doesn't happen again, or that they stay clean, or that they stay on the track that they are. Whether this extends to parole or other law enforcement types of environments, or even just whether you've got spouses or partners that you want to make sure are continuing on a behavior path.
Yeah. And with marriage counselors, and this could be the case with PIs too, they're having accountability tests as it relates to fidelity and topics related to fidelity. So again, you said it, but any PIs interact often with that fidelity topic. So there's an opportunity here, and that's a whole package and a product somebody can put together to put on their website.
You should talk about this in terms of, if you think about this for attorneys and therapists, other high net worth individuals, they face high stakes decisions. How would that work? I mean, maybe you could explain a little bit more about how PIs might use that, or others.
In terms of a ongoing subscription?
Correct.
Yeah. So Typically, what we've offered and then what some of our other partners are doing, there'll be a fee for building and taking that first test. But then once we pick, we want to do it monthly, biweekly, every 3 months, whatever the rhythm may be. There's a set test. It could be the original test they took. We could tweak that first test. We could create a test, unique test, on topics that are likely relevant to the first test. But it's at a lower rate typically.
Right.
So the lower rate could be $100, could be $75, could be $150. It kind of depends on the market and what the appetite is and what the topic is too.
Right.
I could see a regular drug test being $50.
Yep.
Fidelity's, it's more high stakes. So I could see that being higher. So typically we'll do a normal rate or a PI or one of our partners will do a normal rate for that first test and then offer a package depending on the number of times they're going to take it at a price that makes sense for that situation.
Yeah.
And even if you're not making a huge margin on that, you're staying in touch with the client in ways you've never been able to do before. Typically not been able to do before. Usually, I think from a PI perspective, it's often a one-hit wonder. But usually one touch. But that's a way to create more of an ongoing revenue stream that might not be the case otherwise.
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah.
Awesome. Let's talk a little bit about how PIs can make some money referring and helping.
Yeah. So this can be, this could be in a couple different ways. They could refer other PIs to us and get a percentage of that business over time that we do with that PI. Could be you refer a law firm to us. So instead of working directly with that law firm, that's not something you typically do, but you do have those relationships referring a law firm to us. Again, you get a certain percentage of revenue over time for the business that we do with that individual. It could be background check companies, fingerprinting companies, law enforcement, police, fire. I mean, there's a massive list which we're eager to work with, and our PI friends being a conduit to that, who have these relationships that we don't have that. There's a reciprocal financial relationship there. So there's an opportunity it's totally passive income once the introduction is made. And I don't know who doesn't like passive income. So
Exactly.
Everybody's dream is to have passive income.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's something we would love to have our partners help us with. What about this idea of a fidelity package? I mean, some people can't afford a full-blown investigation. There are other options that might help in this case.
Yeah. So, a one-off lie detection test is one. Often there's an inkling of something is up. There's been a change of behavior. They're hiding their phone, which is an example of a change of behavior. There's something that's up. And so that's when the phone's picked up, and there's some level, just like when people come to us, there's anxiety, there's fear on what could be happening, and they may tiptoe in with a social media audit, or looking into somebody's phone and the activity on the phone, which is amazing how PIs can do legally, to be clear. So there's a tiptoe into that. And then at a certain point, something like a lie detection becomes relevant when that person, when the spouse, the boyfriend, the girlfriend, whoever has been confronted with, I've seen this activity. We have a break in trust. I'd like to either know more about what's actually happened and ask you questions so that I know the full truth, or you have the opportunity to defend yourself at this point. And so that's what we mean by package because sometimes doing a lie detection test right off the bat just doesn't make sense for the relationship. Again, we're here to build, not to destroy. So whatever we can do to help people move forward in life. And again, PIs they're all about the truth. And so again, this is one data point, but piecing that together of step 1, step 2, step 3, I think is an opportunity from a fidelity package perspective.
I agree. One thing that we have been intrigued by is the use of this from PIs in a business environment. There are some limitations. I mean, the Hatch Act makes it difficult in some cases in the U.S. to do certain things, but those options are available outside the U.S. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of the ways that this might be used with businesses, even if it's outside the U.S.?
Yeah. And again, we've got conversations in Latin America with PIs on, and the stuff we're talking about them with has to do with pre-employment testing.
Hmm. That's a
Um,
big one, right? I
and
mean, outside the U.S.,
it's a huge
pre-employment
one.
is huge.
Yep. So it's a huge one. Here, it's more common, and from a private business perspective and a security world, like from a security firm perspective, pre-employment testing is done already in law enforcement, government,
Hmm.
fire, in a public service role. So there is an opportunity to work with us, PIs out there, to do pre-employment testing for anybody who's being paid by the government,
Right,
so to
right.
speak. But outside the U.S., the opportunity broadens, and it could be anything from a wealthy family to a major corporation um, that is hiring.
Hmm.
And again, we've done trucking, uh, people, gas stations, people that are handling
Yeah.
money, um,
Convenience stores are a big one. Wherever there's
convenience stores.
turnover and lots of opportunity for theft, those are
Yeah,
often big opportunities.
rental
Right.
businesses is another one. So there's a whole pre-employment testing angle there, and those are pretty standard tests. We would build one test typically, and it's used over and over and over again. So the scalability of that is amazing. Take it down to the next level, and you work in an investigation in an organization, in a corporation. There is theft, and they're trying to figure out who it is, or there's some issue of theft or fraud, even harassment, where we're doing a specific investigation, and there's an opportunity to use this there.
Hmm.
Again, it's same value prop, less expensive, more convenient, more accurate.
Right,
So
right.
so we've got that angle. And then beyond pre-employment testing, even in banks, there's from a credit check perspective, many parts of the world don't have the the back end that we
Yeah,
do,
like
if
the
you will,
FICO
from a
scores and the,
yep,
yeah,
to understand if somebody is
right,
creditworthy. And so this is being used to ask about and test people prior to their given credit about previous behaviors that could indicate that they are not
right,
creditworthy. Intentionally defaulting on a loan, for
right.
example.
And which has been
Uh,
huge in places like Peru and other Latin American countries.
yep.
We have clients down there that have done this very, very successfully and do a lot of tests. It's a money making opportunity for them for sure.
Yeah.
And the default rate,
So
by the way, has gone from, above 50% down to like 5%. It's been amazing how they've impacted the default rate.
yeah, and even just the presence. We have stories of just the idea that lie detection is part of the to that point. Not only doing the lie detection, but just knowing that that's a test. Just not only doing the lie detection test, but knowing that it's a part of the
Yeah.
culture deters people from applying and prevents people from acting in ways maybe that
Yeah.
they wouldn't
Yeah.
or would otherwise.
Yeah.
So
Very cool.
okay, so the last one has to do. We're kind of diving back into the legal world, but it's a very prior. We talked about how law firms use this from a defense and a criminal perspective. Another very common scenario where PIs are brought in has to do with custody, kind of family court
Yeah.
cases. Um, And Bryan, I'll get your opinion, but my perspective in terms of how it's currently being used is to test parents in terms of their
Hmm.
behavior, if any of their behaviors in question. So oftentimes they're doing some form of a drug
Yep.
test. Not often, but depending on the situation, they'll do a drug test. Anything from a hair follicle test to more traditional kind of
Hmm.
urine-based drug tests. But um, yeah, there's a question of truthfulness as it relates to child safety specifically, or even infidelity. uh, this is a great opportunity to leverage the
Yeah,
technology.
we see a broad range of cases. In fact, I just did one recently where there was some questions about the custody. The wife was making accusations against the husband about inappropriate touching or sexual
Yeah.
contact, and that's a big one that we do a lot of work with. But it can be other things as well. Did you lie about not picking the kids up at the right time or paying your support or other things that might impact that custody conversation. So all of those are open. And again, from a PI standpoint, there's a lot of opportunity, or even just law enforcement, or just making sure that people are adhering to what they say they should be doing.
And again, we're in a high stakes situation where the nerves
Mm.
related, sometimes polygraph doesn't work as well. Like there's so much there's so much at stake
Yeah.
that having a more controlled environment, you want to make sure we have the right data to make those decisions at the legal level. And so having this as one part of the data point, as a data point in those decisions, and give everybody the best opportunity to be successful and is important.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right. And so, I mean, we've touched on a number of different places where this can be really game changing for PIs. Do you want to just kind of just sum up for us the top level advantages from the value proposition for PIs and law enforcement here?
Yeah. So overall, no matter what situation, whether it's used for a fidelity situation, you're creating a package for individuals, you're working with law firms, you're working with businesses outside of the U.S., whatever it may be, the primary reason or PIs are working with us is because they see a technology that's scientifically backed.
Mm-hmm.
The science comes out of the University of Utah. It's been around for the science itself has been around for 20 years or so. The technology's been in market for 15 years or so, being used. ODT has been used. So it's scientifically backed. So it's credible. Then you just get to the basics of it's far more efficient.
Yeah.
So 15 minutes to take a test, 15 minutes to take to get a report, and it can be done in somebody's own home if that's of interest, or in an office. So it's scientifically backed. It's credible. It's fast. It's unbiased because computer AI is generating the report using an algorithm that's been proven and tested over and over again, and various lab studies have been written about in many scientific reports. And then you can make money off of it. So we're all got to feed our families, right? So us giving somebody the opportunity to use something that's credible, that's convenient, that creates a better customer experience for their clients and allows them and their client to allows you to make more money and have your client to spend less money. It is a no-brainer.
That's right.
So sign up, PIs. That's what I got to say.
That's right. We welcome that. We welcome partnerships. Yeah. We invite you to contact us. We'd love to work with you and help integrate this technology into your offering.
Well said, Bryan. We love to partner.
Fantastic. Mary Claire, this has been fantastic as usual. Thank you for jumping on today and doing this with me.
You got it.
And thank you to all of our listeners. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like and follow us on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And until next time, we hope your quest for truth is successful.